Administration is trying to be rational. We've already paid a bailout to corporate America, and in particular, how about those noted spa enthusiasts down at AIG, which is now standing for Ain't It Great, because those folks, they've received $130 billion in taxpayer money. One company, they can't account for $37 billion. Oops, lost it. Don't know where it is, and we put no requisites on it. We gave another $300 billion through TARP to 9 banks. No restrictions, no requirements. Here's the money. And when Perino, the then press secretary for President Bush, was interviewed about it, she says, well, we'll hope they'll do the right thing and lend. Hope? You hope? You know what? If I was cutting a $300 billion check, I'd do a little bit more than hope. I'd make sure that they did X, Y, and Z with the money. So part one was irrational. Part two, we're not bailing out people in their homes. In fact, we're even fighting whether or not bankruptcy courts could redo onerous mortgages that were foisted on people that not only didn't deserve them, frankly, but didn't understand them and were told they could afford it. And you know what? I don't know about you, but I've been to a million mortgage closings. Did you understand every piece of paper that was shoved in front of you? I'm a lawyer, and I didn't even read every one.
I've warned clients, and I used to do 150 closings a year. I haven't done one in 2 years now.
Good for you. You're helping.
Yeah, but I went to closings where I would draft a agreement that I would ask the buyers to sign, that they're buying this house against and contrary to my advice, and that they're ignoring my advice not to buy it, and I would have them sign it and put it in my closing file because I knew they were going into trouble. When mortgage brokers were walking away with $15,000 to $20,000 in fees, right, and they were paying a balloon rate on a 3 to 5 year balloon mortgage that will be obviously outside of their ability to pay. These were no-doc mortgages. What do they call them? The ninja loans.
The ninja loans.
No
it's exactly the ninja loans.
Yeah.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, gentlemen, and the reality is, certainly in Cook County and in other counties, that 95% of the mortgages are paid on time and in full by the owners of those homes. We only have 5% mortgage default rate. In the good days, it was 2%. Now it's 5%. So we went from about 12,000 mortgage foreclosures in Cook County to about 47,000 mortgage foreclosures in Cook County last year. And I want to focus the attention of the viewers to our website, which has a lot more information about this, reformcookcounty.com. If you want any information in addition to our conversation here, you can call us at 773-735-1700 or reformcookcounty.com. So we went from 12,000 to 47,000 mortgage foreclosures per year, but 95% of the mortgage holders, homeowners, still paid their mortgage on time. And that's true across the country. In some areas it's higher, in some it's lower, but by and large, 90% plus pay their mortgages. What I want to focus on a grander scale, and when I said that the reason that skunk gets into trouble is because it draws too much attention to itself. The plan that the Obama administration put out, that in addition to the $3.7 trillion budget, federal budget, that will be something like what is the percentage? $15 trillion economy, so about 20% of the economy.
$14 trillion economy, $2.7 trillion federal budget, about a $900 billion discretionary budget within that 2.7.
Right. So it's about 3.6 altogether. We went through the stimulus package that the Bush administration put forward in September, October of $750 billion. TARP. Tax Assets Recovery Act. I believe the reason that Senator McCain lost the election for president, don't forget the election was 53-47 for McCain, is because he voted for this TARP program, $750 billion borrowing, which negated everything that he spoke against for 30 years, in addition to selecting Sarah Palin and suspending his campaign in October when he said that the economy's fine and he didn't know how many homes he had. Right. Pardon me, sir, but we all sleep in one house at a time. That kind of just blew him out of the water, and he only lost by 3 percentage points. But the attention that this skunk of this budget proposal, in addition to Stimulus 1, Stimulus 2, TARP 1, TARP 2, Omnibus Act, and all these other borrowing schemes are going to bring, how is that going to maintain the kind of capitalist system that we have known for the last 230 years here?
It's not going to maintain it. It's going to hamper it, and it's going to prolong the recession. into a mini depression because you're expanding the size of government, you're creating enormous inflation, making the dollar worthless, and you're mortgaging the future of your grandchildren. That's what you're creating. But even in spite of all that, the capitalist system will rebound. It goes back to the invisible hand that Ralph spoke of earlier.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, I disagree with sort of the initial conclusions you made that it's the government spending that's going to lengthen the recession. I think it's just the opposite. And once again, if you look at the economic analysis of Joseph Stiglitz, the Nobel Prize winner in 2001, the worst thing government could do during a recession is cut spending. Our quickest turnaround at the end of the Depression came from those massive investments made by FDR. It worked, it created jobs. It was the largest job growth. His first 4 years were the largest job growth of any 4-year term of any president in America. Still, the worst was George W. Bush, the absolute worst.
Is Mr. Stiglitz advocating greater borrowing at this
No,
time?
no, but it's not the borrowing part. See, now we're getting at the part
It's
that
the
I think we
spending
all
part.
agree
Wait,
upon.
wait,
The
wait.
spending part is fine.
Well, where do you get the money to spend if you don't borrow it?
You have to print
Progressive
it.
taxation. I mean, if you're raising taxes to fund your level of government, you're not crowding capital out of the private markets. You're not creating inflation. In fact, you're being responsible. You're telling taxpayers and voters, look, this is the level of services we want. These are the investments we're going to make. Here's how we're going to tax to pay for it. Now, you could vote me out of office for doing that, but at least I'm being honest. The most dishonest thing any elected official could do could be to promise a level of public services, not tax to fund it, and then borrow to fund it. That is completely dishonest. It does wreck the economy. It is inflationary. And so back to Obama, he's at least getting rid of some of the tax breaks that were given under the Bush administration that ran up our federal deficit. He's saying that we have to raise some more sensible tax revenue in the state. In this nation, we have to do it progressively to pay for these programs. Now, do I think he's gone far enough? Do I agree with everything in the program? Once again, no. I think if two people agree on everything, only one of them's thinking. But at least he put some accountability into it. I mean, he's going to spend $1 billion of his money just putting in accountability metrics, making all the expenditures like on capital, et cetera, posted online, giving voters access to what's happening. So comparing it administration to administration, Obama is actually taking a more capitalist approach by raising current revenue to fund his program rather than just relying on borrowing and being accountable to voters. Now, there are things in there I would cut. There are things in there I think are inappropriate in a stimulus package. I'm sure, Ralph, if you went through it, you would find maybe one or two things you would cut out of it. But the point is, I think overall the approach is needed right now,
Ralph,
and better than the alternative.
If we acknowledge currently that we have a $12 trillion deficit, and if we acknowledge that the 10-year projection for deficit
12
growth,
trillion in debt, yeah.
in debt, correct, not deficit, I'm sorry,
Right.
I misspoke, that we have $12 trillion in debt currently at the federal level, that the Obama plan would increase the federal debt by another $10 trillion over 10 years, and you know, we are going to be then at a point in time, 10 years hence, which is not a long time in terms of history, where we're going to be exceeding our annual gross national product, probably even at that time, by several $1 trillion in terms of just the debt that we have. The interest on debt is going to be over $1 trillion a year. And when the Chinese leadership at their Communist Party conference last week says that they're concerned about $800 billion in treasury notes that they hold the United States government, doesn't that put us on a path to destruction?
Well, you know what? No, we were on that path before Obama came in. To lay this at Obama's feet is
I'm not
wrong.
laying it at anyone's feet.
I'm just saying, you focus very much on the Obama administration, so I'm going to respond to that.
Bush is passed.
The Bush
administration
is the
is
one
gone.
that increased our debt exponentially.
That's why he was voted out of
balanced,
office.
but
Yeah.
well, no, he didn't get voted out of office.
Deficit spending is what you're speaking of.
Yeah, I mean, he was as irresponsible a fiscal steward as we ever had. I'm sure Barry Goldwater is flipping in his grave. He's not just rolling over. I mean, what George
But
did
primarily what Bush did was gave the Democrats everything they wanted. So if he was irresponsible, he was
Excuse me,
marching
were
to
the
their beat.
Democrats controlling Congress then, or were the Republicans?
Listen,
It was the Republicans.